Good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's good to see you all. Would everybody please stand as we begin worship? Nothing can separate, even if I run away, 'cause your love never fails. Oh no. And I know I still make mistakes, but you have no mercy for me every day, 'cause your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages, 'cause your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes with the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Oh no. The wind is strong and the water's deep, but I'm not alone here in these open seas, 'cause your love never fails. The chasm is far too wide. No, I never thought I'd reach the other side. Your love never fails. You stay the same through the ages, and your love never changes. There may be pain in the night, but joy comes with the morning. And when the oceans rage, I don't have to be afraid, because I know that you love me. Your love never fails. Oh no, your love never You make all things work together for my good. 'Cause you make all things work together for my good. 'Cause you make all things work together for my good. 'Cause you make all things work together for my good. 'Cause you make all things work together for my good. 'Cause you make all things work together for my good. You stay the same through the ages, rose from the grave. My God, still rolling stones away. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. 'Cause we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. We were the beggars, now we're royalty. We were the prisoners, now we're running free. We are forgiven, accepted, redeemed by His grace. Let the house of the Lord sing praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. And we won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Our God is surely in this place. We won't be quiet. We shout out your praise. We shout out your praise. There's joy in the house of the Lord. There's joy in the house of the Lord today. We shout out your praise. Thank you, thank you. You can have a seat, please.
Good morning. Do you believe that? Amen. What you just sang? Yes. There's joy in the house of the Lord. Well, thank you everybody for joining us this morning. We're honored that you are here worshiping corporately with us here at Lakeside. We also want to welcome all of you that are joining us online. Thank you for tuning in. Well, a lot of good things are happening here at Lakeside this coming week, and we want to share that with you all. It'll be showing here on the screen. So we do have VBS, which is starting next week. Kids, are you excited? Okay, I got a couple of claps. Good. Kindergarten to fifth grade. There are the dates there and the times from 5:30 to 8 p.m. We're excited. You know what? The future of every church is children's ministry. And we're very intentional here at Lakeside to share the gospel with the little ones during this time. So if you know of anybody, it's not too late to register. You can stop by there at the children's desk, and my wife will be there, and she'll be happy to help you with more information. Also, one of our community partners, CareNet, is also having this baby bottle campaign, as you've all heard of it. There's still a few bottles out there in our welcome desk, so please grab one and return it here to the church. We're getting close to the due date, so also if you could help us support what the great cause that this organization is doing, which is pro-life. And we've been so blessed by this CareNet organization, and it's been so good to journey with them over the years and see everything that God is doing through them. Also, we want to let you know our missionaries, Winston and Chris, continue to lift them up in prayer. I'm sure they will be very busy over the summer, continuing faithfully to share the Lord and the gospel with all the people that they encounter. I know that Chris travels a lot, right, Terry? He just travels all over the globe, and he just has a huge heart, as well as Winston. Winston, as you can see there in the picture, he's bound to a wheelchair, but that doesn't stop him. He continues to powerfully share the good news of Jesus Christ with everybody that he encounters. And we are thankful, and we're also honored to not only pray for them, but also to support them financially. Because guess what? Lakeside also has a mission mindset, because that's the heart of God. Amen? Let's please all stand, and I want to encourage you before we have our meet and greet. Listen to what the Word of God says in Psalms 133. It says, "How wonderful and pleasant it is when brothers and sisters live together in harmony." That is my prayer over all of you this morning as we stand and as we meet and say hello to everybody this morning. So please take a moment to do so. Welcome to Lakeside.
All right. As we're finding our ways back to our seats, would you all please continue worshiping with us? All throughout my history, your faithfulness has walked beside me. The winter storm made way for spring, and every season from where I'm standing, I see the evidence of your goodness all over my life, all over my life. I see your promises and fulfillment all over my life, all over my life. Help me remember when I'm weak, fear may come, but fear will leave. You lead my heart to victory. You are my strength, and you always will. Oh Lord my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands have made, I see the stars, I hear the rolling thunder, thy power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. And when I think that God his Son not sparing sent him to die, I scarce can take it in, that on a cross my burden gladly bearing, he bled and died to take away my sin. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. When Christ shall come with shout of acclamation and take me home, what joy shall fill my heart. Then I shall bow in humble adoration and there proclaim, my God, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art, how great thou art. Thank you. You can be seated.
Good morning, Lakeside. I don't have anything to stand behind today. So a couple weeks ago, Pastor Terry came up and addressed you guys and said, I was told otherwise. Cosmic City, you're going to have to wait just a minute. So he came up and said what a generous church we are. And then afterwards, we went to Discover Lakeside, and you see exactly where what we do goes. And it means a lot to be able to know that you're making a difference out there in your community. You're dropping money into baby bottles. We're putting Winston and Chris out there sharing the Word of God throughout the world. And that takes a special kind of person. We just had a song about God. He gave everything for us. He continues to give, never stops giving. So when it comes time to do our tithes and offerings, we give back, but I don't need to ask you. I don't need to tell you. I don't need to do anything. God will do that. You guys already know what you're giving. It could be $1. It could be your time. Doesn't matter. Everything means something. So today, whenever we do our offering prayer, just like to start off quietly, I want to bow our heads and I want you to pray for what you want for your offering today, and I'll finish it up. Dear Lord, thank you for the generosity of each and every person here. Thank you for Lakeside. Thank you for your love, your grace, and your continued countless blessings that each of us are given from you. Please take these offerings and bless them and go out to do your work, spread your word, and just bring glory to you, God. In Jesus' name, we make this offering today. Amen.
Well, good morning. I am so glad to see all of you today. You know, I was on my way in this morning.
Skydived in this remote desert, all alone, miles from civilization. How will I survive? There's no water, and there's no one around to.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I wasn't expecting anyone to come in that way. I'm Laura.
What are you doing here? I'm supposed to be alone.
Oh, you're not alone. You have lots of company.
No! I'm supposed to be out here by myself, showing people how to survive in the wilderness.
Wait. Don't I know you? Yes! You're from that TV show, the one where they show people how to survive in the wild. You guys, this is Cliff Towers.
Yeah. That's me.
Wow. I mean, you are famous. They drop you off in the middle of nowhere. I mean, you survive for lengths of time. They drop you off, you have no gear, and you last for weeks. Oh, guys, okay, so on one episode, Cliff built an entire shelter from a box of toothpicks and a stick of gum.
Yeah, about that.
Oh, and then she tamed a wolf and trained it how to pull a sled made from shoelaces and tree bark. It was amazing.
So, are you gonna be here for long?
Yeah, all week.
A week?
Yes, Monday through Thursday, 5:30 to 8 o'clock p.m. All my friends in grades kindergarten through 5th grade are going to be learning about the greatness of God. Ooh, you're welcome to join us. You can still register today in the lobby, online at lfchurch.com. You could even just invite a friend and show up. It's gonna be so fun. But for now, my friends and I, we are headed way out west. So friends, it's time to gather your gear and let's head on out.
Good morning. I want to thank our newly formed drama team. We didn't know the talent ran so deep here. We will be recruiting them. But look, sounds like a great week. How many of you just as kids now went or attended a vacation Bible school? Just out of curiosity, hands up high. All over, right? I mean, this program, Vacation Bible School, has been around for a long, long time. Various churches, various denominations, they have adapted in different ways to sports camps and different types of camping experiences. Some are outside, inside, but here's the thing. It's an opportunity to connect with kids in our community. It's also a chance to encourage our own kids that are underneath our own steeple, if you will. So here's what I'd ask you to do. Obviously, if you have a child that is in that zone of age, please encourage them and try to help them to be able to be here. Maybe you need to be that transportation. That or pick up them an Uber card and let them be able to come and go. Otherwise, and for all of us, would you pray, please? This is not just an empty little thing we put in the program through the summer and the church life and all that. It's an opportunity really to connect with kids. And some of these kids probably have really never heard a clear presentation of the gospel. Never. And I don't think they're going to necessarily get it out in the world, per se. So please, would you pray for your teachers and helpers and those that are being a part of that team? I know they'd appreciate it as well. How are you? Very good. Very good. We've been studying the I am statements of Jesus. We started with I am the bread of life, John 6:35 on the screen. Then Jesus declared, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never go hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. Actually, in that first century, bread was the main course, if you will. For us today, you might have a steak with a roll on the side. If you go to Red Lobster, you're going to get this big old lobster, well, little lobster, and bread is going to be on that side, although it's a good little bread, I have to admit, right? In that day, bread was about mainly the meal. In fact, later on, we use the expression, we are breaking what together? Bread together. We're sharing a meal together. We spent some time with that. We also talked a little bit about Jesus being the light of the world in John 8:12. These are I am statements that Jesus said about who he was in the Gospel of John. Once again, Jesus spoke to the people and said, I am the light of the world. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness, but will have the light of life. So Jesus, first of all, said he was bread, but he was just like bread is a part of life to survive. He was a bread that gives sustenance, that brings a certain satisfaction, a certain peace, a certain eternal security that earthly bread could not give you. Recently, we were over in Orlando, and there's this White Castle cheeseburger place. I know. What are we supposed to do? But stop and then invest in the store. They had this like a case, I think it's called the Crave case. It's got 30 sliders in it. Yeah. And you're saying, well, I wonder how many he ate. I'm not going to tell you. Maybe 1.5, and I was stuffed. I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, I was already there, and they came in, and you carry this thing like a suitcase. It has a handle, and you open it up, and it's this incredible display. So we all enjoyed sliders. And it was great. We're stuffed. Oh, no more sliders. What do you think we had for breakfast? You bet. At least I did. There's something about earthly bread that you just have to continue to go back to. And Jesus was trying to make it clear, just as you guys chase this, you're going to continue to chase that. I'm offering you something that's eternal in nature. And the question is, what were we feeding on? The other illustration was light. We talked about how this was happening at the Feast of Tabernacles, and they had these 75-foot candle, I guess kind of like big, huge candles, I guess would be the way to describe it. Huge bowls at the top, 4 of them. They were lit. They had oil in it, and they used old garments as the wick. It was part of a week-long celebration called the Feast of Tabernacles. When they were extinguished at the end of the week, the light was going out. And Jesus said, I'm the light of the world. You see, we commented before how we can just go throw a switch. I don't know, there's a switch around here that can throw lights on and off, right? I brought one of my new little flashlights with me. This guy's tiny, right? See if you can see the beam from where you're at, right? Ready? I'm just going to... Okay, look. Much smaller than a lipstick thing, guys. Yeah, I shined it in Alex's eyes the other day. I think he's still having issues, but what are friends for? But we have that convenience. That's we could throw a switch. And first century, again, light was, problematic. When darkness came, you just didn't have a way unless you planned to have something, a little oil lamp or so forth. So Jesus is saying that I am the light of life and I am the bread of life. So what does it look like for someone maybe who is not feeding on the bread of life and who is walking in darkness? What might they view life, especially towards the end? I ran across something that Mark Twain wrote that was kind of disturbing. It was really sad. But this was towards the end of his life. It's on the screen. A myriad of men are born. They labor and sweat and struggle for bread. They squabble and scold and fight. They scramble for little mean advantages over each other. Age creeps upon them. Infirmities follow. Those they love are taken from them, and the joy of life is turned into aching grief. Release or death comes at last, and they vanish from a world where they were of no consequence, a world which will lament them a day and forget them forever. Man, that is someone who's arrived at the dead-end street of despondent. To go through life and thinking these things that are really designed about living, these substitutes for bread, real bread, living bread, and these walking in maybe a path that is darkness, maybe just being chased by the artificial light, oftentimes leads to a person of despair. Even Solomon said it as well in your Bible and mine. The end of a man, a life who decided he'd try everything, had it all, had as much money as you can imagine. And so he did an experiment with pleasure at every category, and this is his conclusion. Verse 8, meaningless, this is Ecclesiastes 12, verse 8, meaningless, says a teacher. Everything is meaningless. Skipping down to verse 13, now all has been heard. Here is the conclusion of the matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is the duty of all mankind. For God will bring every deed into judgment, including every hidden thing, whether it is good or evil. You know, he summarized this huge experiment in life. He said when it comes down to it, if we're just living life under the sun, that expression is over and over in Ecclesiastes, just life in what we see and feel and experience and do here now, and this is it, his conclusion was vanity, meaningless, like a vapor that disappears. But we're all, even as believers, sometimes guilty of Looking for love in all the wrong places, aren't we, sometimes? The setting of today's I am statement takes place after Jesus healed a blind man. He was born blind, and Jesus brought this incredible healing. And he was told to show the Pharisees, you needed to get, your new health certificate, if you will. In the process, they basically discredited the miracle that had been occurred because it didn't happen, or it happened on the Sabbath. And then they discredited Jesus. And so this kind of back and forth began to happen between Jesus and the Pharisees. And in fact, let's look at verse 1 of John 10. The setting is, I am the good shepherd. That's kind of a theme of the entire chapter. This is actually one of the, be honest with you, greatest chapters in the Bible. So I would ask you to just allow God to speak through his words of his scripture. Very truly, I tell you, Pharisees, again, the conversation continues, anyone who does not enter the sheep pen by the gate, but climbs in by some other way, is a thief and a robber. The one who enters by the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep listen to his voice. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he has brought them out of his own, he goes on ahead of them, and his sheep follow him because they know his voice. They will never follow a stranger. In fact, they will run away from him because they do not recognize a stranger's voice. Jesus used a figure of speech, but the Pharisees did not understand what he was telling them. At first glance, you get the idea that they just couldn't resonate. I don't think that's what John's saying. I think they understood the words. First century Palestine, sheep and shepherds were all over the place. It was a normal part of life. He says, I think John's saying they weren't getting the spiritual connection, is what he's saying. He's offering this understanding about sheep and shepherd, and they don't get it. And you know what? It's a little bit removed from us, isn't it? I mean, I don't know how many sheep are herded around your house. But in ancient times, sheep would have a shepherd, and they would be moved upon and led and guided through different places throughout Palestine where crops or grains would produce a harvest for them. In fact, I ran across something that would kind of give us an image of what Jesus was describing here. This is a first century sheepfold. And during the day, the shepherd would lead the sheep around and helping them to find good grazing pastures. You may know that from Psalm 23, right? But in the evening, they would all be corralled into this sheepfold. It's primarily designed for safety. And that little opening is where the shepherd would park himself. So when Jesus says, I am the gate, he's the one parking himself right there. And he's going to say, anyone who comes and goes apart from the gate is a robber, a thief, a stealer, someone who's coming in the wrong way. Let's continue now a little bit. That just gives us a little bit of the structure. Verse 7, Jesus continues to kind of interpret what he's said to them so they'll better understand it. Therefore, Jesus said again, very truly I tell you, I am the what? Gate for the sheep. If you're going to come into God's fold, you go through the gate. And who's the gate? Jesus. All who've come on before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep have not listened to them. A second time, Jesus says what? I am the gate. Whoever enters through me will be saved. They will come in and go out and find pasture. The thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. But I have come that they may have life and have it to the full. You may know the King James Version of have it abundantly. So Jesus is making it clear that anyone who has come into the sheepfold by not coming through the gate is a thief. And its direct context is who? Remember, the context helps direct our interpretation and understanding. What is the context? Who's Jesus talking to and about? The Pharisees. These are people that taught falseness, and they enslaved people, and they basically were kind of jumping the fence. They weren't going through Jesus at all. Their goal and their mission was what? Verse 10, steal, kill, and destroy. However, you know what? They don't market themselves that way. And they didn't market themselves in Jesus' day that way either. Interesting, verse 9, I was wanting back up there. He says that whoever comes through me will be saved. These sheep that come through me as a gate will be saved. Now, we quickly spiritualize that and say, well, that must mean, I'm saved as a Christian. But he was literally saying, and paralyzed, that if a sheep doesn't come in this fold, they're going to be eaten up, probably by a wolf. But then he adds something else. He says, through me, they can actually come in and go out. There's this sense of liberty. There's this sense of freedom in that environment that Jesus was offering. I want to propose that the idea of Jesus being our shepherd is a lot more easier for us to take in than us thinking that we are his sheep. We don't like to see ourselves as sheep. Our culture doesn't celebrate sheep. When's the last time you went to a football game and, man, you had the fighting sheeps? Get a big blazer of the sheeps, man. I've seen some rams, but sheep? No, we want to market ourselves as lions. We got a shepherd, but I'm a lion, baby, And I know you're married to a tiger. I gotcha. Doesn't always sit as comfortably with us because it offends our pride. The nature of sheep, in studying a little bit about them, is that they're vulnerable. They're easily preyed upon. They can be led astray. They can drift. They cannot focus right and do the right things. 2005 in Turkey, 1,500 sheep jumped off a cliff, one by one. The shepherds evidently were having breakfast, and the report from the one that was still watching the sheep was up top. One of the sheep tried to jump to make it to the other side of this gap and didn't make it. Well, sheep who don't maybe have the brightest IQ followed suit. Of the 1,500, 490-some died. I mean, it's morbid, but it is kind of an actual lesson about sheep and the vulnerability and how they need to be led, right? I'm reading back at the text at verse 11. Here's the statement Jesus said, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. Verse 12, the hired hand is not the shepherd and does not own the sheep. So when he sees the wolf coming, let that imagery sink in. If we're sheep, what's after us? Not Red Riding Hood. We're out of the book. We're talking real life, right? The wolf coming. So this hired hand, he sees the wolf coming. He abandons the sheep and runs away. Then the wolf attacks the flock and scatters it. The man runs away because he is the hired hand and cares nothing for the sheep. Second time, I am the good shepherd. I know my sheep, and my sheep know me, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. I have other sheep that are not of this sheep pen, and I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there shall be one flock and one shepherd. The reason my Father loves me is that I lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down on my own accord. I have authority to lay it down and authority to take it up again. This command I received from my Father. The Jews who heard these words were again divided. Many of them said, he is demon-possessed and raving mad. Why listen to him? But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? First of all is revelation. In this little paragraph or so, Jesus is making this revelation that I am the good shepherd. That phrase, I am, should trigger in your mind something from the Old Testament. What is that? Moses, burning bush, Exodus chapter 3 says, suppose, Moses speaking to God in the burning bush, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? I am has sent me to you. This little phrase is God's name, his personal name. It came to understand it as Yahweh, just 4 consonants, YHWH. Later on, vowels were added to preserve the pronunciation, but it's I am, the self-existent one, the self-being of which all other life comes from. I am. At one point, Jesus simply called himself I am. John 8, this is before, a couple chapters before what we're talking about now. He's having another discussion with the Pharisees. Your father Abraham rejoiced at the thought of seeing my day. He saw it and was glad. This is Jesus describing himself. Now look what the Pharisees said. You're not yet 50 years old, they said to him, and you have seen Abraham? Very truly I tell you, Jesus answered, before Abraham was, I am. That is the name of God. Jesus never was confused about who he was from the beginning. He was declaring himself to be God. In fact, the Pharisees got it, because what did they say? Verse 59, at what? This blasphemous statement. What'd they do? They picked up stones to stone him. But Jesus hid himself, slipping away from the temple guards. Now, amazing. So each time that Jesus said, I am the bread of life, I am the light of the world, I am the good shepherd, guys, he's declaring himself God. And he's just attaching a metaphor to it to help us understand how to relate to him. Just as you need bread to survive, you need spiritual bread, me, to survive eternally. Right? Revelation, the next word, I put R so it helped me remember redemption. Each time he said, I'm the good shepherd, he says what? Verse 11, lays down his life for the sheep. Verse 15, just as the Father knows me and I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Verse 17 and 18, the reason my Father loves me is that I, what? Lay down my life, only to take it up again. No one takes it from me, but I lay it down of my own accord. Jesus, willfully as the good shepherd, gave himself for the sheep. That's you and for me. You know what's ironic? What's ironic here is that Jesus is talking about sheep and shepherd, and all these sheep, you know what? They usually die, and the shepherd lives. Jesus is saying, no, I'm giving my life so the sheep can live. I'm going to die. That's really, really kind of a powerful to think about. And you know what? I know at times we hear the good old gospel story, but it can get removed from us. But it's designed to impact our life today. Can I introduce you to a man named Maximilian Kolbe? Maximilian was a Catholic priest in Poland. And during World War II, when Germany occupied Poland, he was arrested. And in time, Maximilian was deported to Auschwitz, and he was put into a concentration camp. Evidently, the policy was that if any man from your block escaped, 10 people would pay the price of that escaped man. It obviously was quite a significant deterrent. One day, one of the men did escape. So all the men were called, 10 of them, or the whole block was called to stand outside all day in the heat, without sun or food, without water, in the sun all day. The escaped prisoner was never found. So the commander just basically called out 10 people, and those 10 people were going to go to what is called the starvation cell. The starvation cell is where you go, where you receive no water and no food until you die, period. 10 were selected. One of those people that was selected basically begged and pleaded, saying that I have a family, I have a wife and kids. If I am not around, they will never survive. Well, the commander didn't really care about that. But in that lineup of men, of the 10, there was a man who was not called, which was this Maximilian Kolbe. Back up just a little bit, guys. You're ahead of me. He stepped forward and said that he would be, and this is foreign territory for us to comprehend, that he would take the place of this man in the starvation cell. The commander, evidently, those that reported that he was actually speechless. After a few moments of taking that in, he said, okay. 10 men went into the starvation cell, and evidently the reports from others that could hear inside there and around, because they were in different areas that they could hear each other, the normal thing for a guard to go in to these prisoners was he would hear cussing and cursing at them, and just people were dying, and they're just taking it out on, obviously, the Nazi guards. But Maximilian, in his cell, sought to minister to these guys, lead them in prayers, sing hymns. You know, one by one, they began to die. No food and no water all the time in the cell. Eventually, after 2 weeks, most were all dead. There's different reports. I've read 2 different articles on the number of people, but there's, I think, more than one that were still living after 2 weeks of no food and no water in darkness. One of those that was alive was Maximilian, and the guard wanted the cell back and needed it cleared. So he went in there and gave them this lethal injection of something and took their lives. This is cell block 11, or block 11. You go down this corridor, and then cell 21 is what is called the starvation chamber. There's a little marker to Maximilian. Greater love hath no man than this, and a man lay down his life for another. What about the gentleman that he gave his life for? I found myself thinking about that and began to chase a little bit about this individual. His name was Franz Zeke, and I can't begin to pronounce his last name. This was the man who was able to escape the starvation chamber. He was in the concentration camp until they were freed by the Allies. He spent 5 years and 5 months and 9 days in total. Whenever he was set free, it took about 6 months before he could find his wife. She had survived. His 2 sons, though, were killed during the war. But you know what's amazing about this man? You can show the next slide. He spent the rest of his life telling about the incredible love of Maximilian. That was his mission and his calling. He was a believer. His passion was that. In fact, his quote was, he came to America. He was at a church in Houston, Texas in 1994, and the translator speaking for his behalf in his aged voice, so long as he has breath in his lungs, he would consider it his duty to tell people about the heroic act of love by Maximilian Kolbe. This is one of the last photos. He died in 1995 at age 93. I brought that story to remind us of the incredible love that Jesus had for us, not just dying for us, but becoming sin for us. This whole idea of this revelation, I am the good shepherd, but he kept saying over and over, I give my life for the sheep. I give my life for the sheep. Quickly, let me finish up here. There's a relationship. It says, I know my sheep, and my sheep know me. In verse 15, just as the Father knows me, and I know the Father. That know, the word is an intimate know. In the original language, it's used of physical intimacy between a man and a woman. Adam knew his wife would be in the Hebrew. The idea that there's a knowledge, a knowingness between the shepherd and the sheep. Study that out when you have a chance. The sheep hear that shepherd's voice. When they go to that pen at night, if sometimes there'll be other shepherds that would bring their sheep in there as well. Well, how are we going to get them all separated? Guess what? Those sheep know the shepherd's voice, and the shepherd knows the sheep. Amazing, really, if you think about it. That's an intimate relationship. Verse 4 talks about in rescue in verse 16. John 10:16, I have other sheep that are not of this pen. What's he talking about there? I must bring them also. They too will listen to my voice, and there will be one flock and one shepherd. You know what I think he's talking about there? Not everyone around him that were coming into the fold were Jews. They were Gentiles. Most of us in this room don't come from a Jewish ethnicity. And Jesus is saying, you know what? There's other sheep. And I'm going to rescue them. They're going to be part of this sheepfold. Jesus has a rescuing heart. Remember that story that Jesus told about a shepherd who had 100 sheep and then he lost one? And you know what? He was more concerned about the 99, so he said, good luck to the one that got lost, right? Okay, just make sure you're still with me, right? No, he made sure that they were safe, but then he went after that one sheep, right? He went and found them. And when he found them, he's bringing them back, and there's this picture of incredible joy. And he says, not only was he excited, he had a big party, and Jesus said, you know what? In heaven, there's a party going on. Maybe you look at your life, and you know what? Maybe you were that one sheep that was kind of way, way out there. And Jesus went on a rescue mission to get you and bring you back to the fold. Or maybe you know someone that's kind of, I don't know, not hanging out with a flock, trying to play the lion, you know. I know you're praying for them, and we'll trust that God in this time will bring he or she home. And finally, there's this response. Incredible imagery. The Jews who had heard these words were again divided. Verse 19. Look what many of them, wrote Jesus off. This guy is demon-possessed and a madman. You don't need to listen to him. I'm sure the Pharisees are going around, don't listen to this guy, right? By the way, they're the false shepherds. They're the hireling shepherds. They're not interested in the sheep. They don't care about them. They like the money. They're there. As soon as trouble comes, as soon as the wolf's getting on there, hey, I'm out of here, right? Exit stage left. Don't listen to them. Verse 21, but others. That tells me something. Jesus' presence sometimes brings a division, doesn't it, between people? Between people that follow Jesus and seek to serve him and people that don't seek to serve him, don't believe in him. Sometimes there's this division that happens. But others said, these are not the sayings of a man possessed by a demon. First of all, what he's saying, that's not demonic. And then, by the way, let me add something else. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? So there were the skeptics in that crowd. There were the seekers. And there were obedient sheep. I close with a verse of 1 Peter 2:25. I like how Peter says this. He's capturing some of the Old Testament imagery. And he says, for you were like sheep going astray. Going astray. But now, you have returned to what? The shepherd and overseer of your souls. King James, bishop of your souls. You were sheep, you're wandering, you're outside the flock. Man, you don't know where the good pasture is. There's danger. But then you were reunited with the great shepherd. Now listen, we all have a tendency to sometimes wander off, don't we? Sometimes we're convinced the shepherd doesn't know where the green grass is. I do. And after all, I'm a lion. It just goes bah, right? No, obviously the flock and with the shepherd is safety, it's provision. You know what? I tell you where you could get the commentary on this is to read the 23rd Psalm, right? Read it and watch this come alive. Jesus is the shepherd David was talking about, really. A little video clip I want you to see at the end, and the reason I chose it is because Jesus used this idea of sheep without a shepherd. And he was using it in Matthew 9 when he's speaking about the harvest. But he looked at all these people around them, and he saw that they were kind of like sheep that didn't have a shepherd. So there's sheep all around us that are just wandering. And then the prayer was to pray that God will send out laborers to the harvest. You could also say, pray that he'll bring out people who will help point them to the shepherd. So let's play the video and we'll finish, please.
Thank you, Pastor Terry. Excellent message, right? You know it's a great message when it gets really quiet. That means that the Spirit of God, through His holy word, is touching hearts and minds. Oh, that too. That too. Hey, well, thank you for joining us this morning. I just want to remind you, we have that family room in the back. I'm going to be there personally. If you have any prayer needs or any prayer requests, please stop by. I would love to talk with you and pray with you if you have anything on your heart. We also have those connection cards in the back of the seats or in front of you, depending where you're sitting this morning. Please fill one of those out. We would love to connect with you, let you know what is happening here at Lakeside throughout the week. And as we get into the summer as well, there's a lot of good things happening. Also, really important, at the welcome desk, we have this helps application. If God is leading you to volunteer here at Lakeside, we would love to just come alongside with you and help you with that. But one of the things that will obviously help us know is if you fill one of these out. And these are going to be right there at the welcome desk. Take some time, grab one of them, read through them. It has information about Lakeside and also how you can volunteer. I know there are 2 areas that we need a lot of help with. So has anybody worked at Starbucks before? Any baristas in the house? No. Okay. So we need help in our cafe desperately. We need someone to help us in our cafe area. Also, we need people to help Scott back there in the tech booth, in the sound, with the cameras and all other needs that are there for us to just jump right in. So please consider that. Grab one of those help application forms and fill one out, and then just bring them back, and you can just either return them to me or someone from the staff. Well, Lakeside, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Enjoy the rest of your day, and remember that Jesus is the Good Shepherd. Thank you for joining us.